Last year, Alex, my husband, and I moved into a small house with a small garden. It was my first time with a garden, and I planted herbs, a few spring bulbs, and a little tree. I was disappointed that they seemed in the winter to dry up and disappear. But come springtime, there was life. Life I hadn't seen in that little garden before. So it was a lovely and welcome surprise. Neither Alex nor I are particularly gifted gardeners, and I was told growing up that no one in our family had a green thumb. So I was proud of our little garden. In reality, I planted things that are on the whole durable: rosemary, lavender, daffodils, a wintering tree. At the end of the day, most people could have planted these things and they would have survived. And at the very end of the day, the soil had probably been cultivated before we got there, the seed was healthy, so there was more going on than I at first understood. But this accomplishment was certainly more the soil than it was my own attempt. But I felt that some of the credit was mine, and I was grateful. On this Harvest Sunday, we have a lovely reading from Deuteronomy that reminds us that all things come from God. But remember the Lord your God, for it is He who gives you power to get wealth, so that He may confirm His covenant that He swore to your ancestors, as He is doing today. Our efforts, our desires, our accomplishments must come from and return to God. It's a call today to remember that God is the source of all good things in our life. It's not just our own effort that brings about harvest or rosemary and wealth. The Israelites had journeyed from Egypt and are now approaching a land of plenty. All they have dreamt of is near. Some of it's already realized. And so God warns them, "Do not say to yourself, 'My power and the might of my own hand have gotten me this wealth.'" And this reading still speaks to us today. It draws us back to the source, God, from whom all blessings flow. I love the song we often sing on Harvest Sunday, "We plow the fields and scatter." The words, "We thank you then, Creator, for all things bright and good, the seed time and the harvest, our life, our health, our food. All good gifts around us are sent from heaven above. We thank you, God. We thank you, God, for all your love." This song, and many of the songs we may sing on this Sunday, may make giving thanks seem easier than it is. Being thankful is a skill, and one that must be consistently practiced. So on this Sunday, we come together and give thanks for the abundance of the harvest, of the abundance of blessing in our lives. It's a day of thanks and hopefully an encouragement to give thanks in many moments of our life. We can put into practice, we can put practices into our day to try and remember to be grateful. We can say grace before meals. We can say thank you before going to bed, or when we first wake up. Meister Eckhart, a medieval German monk and theologian, said, "Thanksgiving is our best way to pray." And thanksgiving helps us move towards the recognition of God as source. But at least for me, I think there is another element to our harvest time that helps us to see God. In the garden, I can be grateful for the beautiful flowers that I planted. And I can be grateful for the things that I have helped bring to fruit. And this applies to a garden, but also in work, in home, in many areas of life. I can feel grateful for what I have worked at. And that's not a bad thing. But our reading from Deuteronomy says that thanksgiving and recognition of abundance are a good thing, but also reminds us to recognize our dependence on God. Our reading tells us how, especially in the midst of harvest or wealth, we must not forget God, from whom all blessings flow. And we should do this in such a way that we rely more and more on this God, and a God we cannot see, but who somehow we believe leads us to a life of abundance, of promise. It's not a matter of how well we can remember to be grateful or what practices we may initiate daily, but it is a matter of faith. Michael Casey is a Cistercian monk, which is a very silent kind of monk, and he wrote a book called Grace. And in it he says, faith is what connects us to the invisible world that is the sphere of God. And it does this in a manner that gives us a measure of certainty, even though there is no sensory or rational evidence to support it. Faith, he says, is what connects us to the invisible world that is the sphere of God. It does this in a manner that gives us a measure of certainty, even though there is no sensory or rational evidence to support it. It's not common today to connect to this invisible world, the sphere of God. It is 2023, and we are not immune to the skepticism or the unbelief that surrounds us, as I imagine many of you are aware. But on this day, on Harvest Sunday, we are called back to this reliance that we have on God and that we make in faith. In fact, we're invited to hand more over to God, which can be frightening and even seem counterintuitive when we have been taught and encouraged to trust our own effort. But faith allows us to connect to that invisible world, a world that is greater than ourselves, our understanding, and our efforts. And in faith, somehow, we acknowledge a God that we do not see, but that we trust guides us into blessing, into promise. And this is a journey the people of God have been making for millennia, this journey of faith, trusting in the one who provides, who blesses, in a world that tells us that it's our effort that's responsible for things in our life. This Harvest Sunday, I invite you to explore what reliance on God may look like, feel like, seem like. How might it challenge the way that you move in the world? Would it cause you to welcome that which you may not see, to accept and be grateful for it? And may it put a sense of thankfulness in your life or in your heart. How do we find joy and wonder in this harvest? In the knowledge that though we plant, at some point it is up to other forces to harvest. Can we trust in faith that with God this harvest will be good and bountiful? This is Harvest Sunday, and let this day be a reminder of, or at least a calling back to this reliance that we have on God, which we make in faith and we make in thanksgiving. We thank you then, Creator, for all things bright and good, the seed time and the harvest, our life, our health, our food. All good gifts around us are sent from heaven above. We thank you, God, for all your love.